welcome to our official stamp cancellation for the town of Bridgewater. And glad to see everybody's here.
I just like, well, first of all, thank you everyone for coming out to this on our birthday, 125 years. It's something quite special for the town. And I wanna thank the South Shore Stamp Club for this the stamp cancellation, right? Is that the pictorial stamp cancellation?
Yes.
I have in my pocket the last one that I keep in my office at Town Hall from 2017, where we had the one for Bijanuiska Park, which also has the nice stamp on it for the park. So I have a couple of these that are on display, so whenever I'm meeting with developers or business people interested in coming to our town to start a new business, this is one of the things they see. And so to mark our 125th birthday with another, I find these, obviously they're unique, but they're also very special. I think it's very fitting. So thank you all for putting this together and for being here today.
Anyways, thank you everybody for coming for our Bridgewater 125. And the Philatelic Society has asked us to produce a cancellation commemorating this event, so which we have done, and it's turned out with very positive reviews. And Canada Post is really pleased to be involved with supporting Philatelic Society and Bridgewater. So of course, it's just been a great time. So the cancel is officially released as of right now, and please take part in some of the festivities. We have coffee, tea, donuts, anything you folks like. So thank you very much.
Thanks for all your effort.
Yeah.
Thanks, folks.
I'm Amanda Fancy. I'm the dealer owner of Gals Home Hardware and Furniture. We've been at this location for about a year. We started in 1848, way back when. This is our 5th location, so we've never have left the town limits. So when we're looking to build this location, we had lots of opportunity to potentially look at outside of the town limits, but it was really key for us to be and continue to be a growing business in Bridgewater. Bridgewater, Nova Scotia is unique. We have a beautiful countryside. Our town is 7,500 people, but then, our customer reach is about 45,000. So, we're talking about lots of small communities, hidden treasures. There's huge opportunity here, and I think that it's certainly worthwhile to make the visit, make the call, do some inquiring, because it certainly is somewhere where I think there would be some strong investment opportunities for sure.
My name is Joey Richard. I come from Quebec, Montreal. I've studied opera at the Montreal Conservatoire of Music, so this is where I've learned about Italian, the language, and the food. And my passion just became bigger and bigger for food. I've been cooking for 20 years, almost. I opened a family business, but the only thing I forgot is that my family is still in Montreal, so I'm like, I make new friends, I'm building this thing, but it is a family business here. My chef is like my brother, his wife is like my sister, so I recreated a family environment.
Good evening, everyone. I'll call this regularly scheduled meeting of Bridgewater Town Council to order. And as always, the town of Bridgewater is located in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And it is our privilege to be here in what will be a meeting that will end one way or another by like 8:40 or 8:45, because something going on at 9 o'clock. Can't remember what that is. Councillor Conklin, do you recall what's happening at 9 o'clock? Is there?
I don't know, but I hate to see you without a quorum at 9 p.m.
All right, well, as I told this side of the table, if we're here at 9 o'clock, it's all on you. Okay. Can I have are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the agenda circulated? Deputy Mayor Fragier, seconded by Councillor Tanner. All those in favor? Those opposed? If I'm going fast, it is because we have a hockey game. We'll jump into presentations. We don't have our provincial individual volunteer here yet, so if Mustafa arrives later, we will jump back to that. But we do have some representatives from Michelin here, and so I'll ask the Deputy Mayor to perhaps read about the 2024 Provincial Corporate Volunteer Award for the Michelin Bike Team, and then ask the gentleman to maybe come up to the front.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So I'm proud to announce that Soshore Michelin Junior Bike is the 2024 Corporate Volunteer of the Year Award recipient for the town of Bridgewater. This free community event began in 2007 and welcomes children ages 5 to 11 to participate in a bike course, take their bike to the Michelin Junior Bike Garage for an inspection, as well as being outfitted with a new bike helmet. This program not only promotes bicycle safety, but creates a space for families to connect in this annual event. We are happy to be able to recognize and thank the organizers of the Soshore Michelin Junior Bike. Please come forward.
Thank you for all your efforts on this. Give this to someone to roll. There we go. Perfect. That's more. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, as I said, we have our provincial volunteer, and if Mustafa arrives later, we'll jump to that, and if not, we'll make sure that we are publicly recognizing him at a future council meeting for sure. And thanks again to Michelin and all the volunteers that work for Michelin that put on this event every year. I know it's a huge success. We're down to announcements, and I know a few weeks ago, Councillor Conklin, Deputy Mayor Fragier, CAO Crowder, and myself went to the FCM. We're doing our debrief Thursday, so at the next council meeting, we'll give you, the full rundown of how the conference was and the sessions we went to. I presented at one about Energized Bridgewater. We got another shout out in the middle of a political keynote again, which was interesting. And I know we all kind of divided and conquered and went to a bunch of different sessions, which was good. And we brought back a lot of information from the trade show and best practices. So again, our debrief is this Thursday, and then we'll have a presentation for council at the next council meeting. Are there any other announcements from council? Councillor Thorburn?
Yes, I'm pleased, Your Worship, to announce that as part of the Bridgewater's 125th anniversary celebrations in 2024, the Bridgewater Museum Commission is pleased to partner with King Street Beer to release Museum Mashup, a special beer which will help raise money in support of the Desbrizes Museum, Bridgewater's home of art, culture, and heritage. The beer will be launched on Saturday, June the 29th. Come on down, order a Bridgewater Mashup, and make a toast to our community's next 125 years.
Excellent. Thank you. We have Canada Day. Did you have any?
I was just going to say Canada
Okay.
Day as well, so go ahead.
Yep, so Canada Day is Monday, a week today. There's a breakfast from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Branch 24 of the Royal Canadian Legion. There's also a Canada Day block party from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Dominion Street. There'll be free transit from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. There's 3-on-3 basketball tournaments hosted by South Shore Surf at the LCLC. The Multicultural Festival is from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., and that is at the Woodland Gardens, which is behind the Desbrizes Museum. There's a King Street Kitchen Party from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. with lots of live music and events along King Street. And then we're, of course, encouraging folks to, lots of communities around the region doing fireworks. And so instead of competing, we're collaborating and asking folks to, to take in the fireworks in New Germany or Riverport and all the other communities. And we still have the same number of fireworks events in Bridgewater. We're just moving ours to the fall, to our Harvest Moon Festival. So if you think regionally, we're actually up one set of fireworks by moving this one. So and it makes it a little bit more family friendly because it'll be a few hours earlier in the evening. So lots to do on Canada Day for sure. Any other announcements or events coming up?
Question, I wonder if anyone will have an announcement or an update for the public on the Trail Bridge. Is there anything to update the public on?
Oh, on the Trail Bridge. So I don't think there's a firm announcement for timeline. We're still sourcing materials and assessments still have to be done. It will be, and I'm looking at Matt, safe to say it will be months regardless. Whether it's a few months or up to 6 months, we don't know, but it will be months. As I had to explain to a few people, it's not like just deck boards burned. That is the significant material for obviously an old bridge that requires quite a bit of strength, so it's sourcing the material. It's unfortunate, but yeah, it's going to be months, I'm afraid. At the end of the day, I'm glad nobody was hurt and that the fire didn't spread into the woods. I cannot believe on one of the hottest days on record in our community, our fire crew is putting on all that gear and going into that. It's just unbelievable to me. As you would know, Councillor Thorburn, just they don't think about that, they just go. No. So, it could have been worse. But yeah, thank you for raising that question. If we do have an update, we'll make sure that we get that out. But right now, it's it's going to be months. Anything else? Okay, moving down to delegations. I don't know if Karen, I see you're here. Were you going to make a presentation to council, or you're just waiting for your item to come up?
Yeah, I don't have anything else to present, just waiting.
Okay, and I don't know if there's anyone, I don't see anyone else prepared to make a presentation. So we'll move on. We have the minutes of May 27th and June 10th regular council meeting. Any errors or additions or omissions for those? Hearing none. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes as circulated? Councillor Tanner, thank you. And seconded by Deputy Mayor Frigier. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. And thank you for those who covered for me and took the chair while I was away.
It's a fabulous meeting.
I heard it was the best meeting in the last 8 years. So that's great. It's funny, you chaired the meeting and then you told me that. So I'm sure it's not biased. You were like pretty quick to be. I think it was 38. You know, like 38 minutes. So just so in case people are interested, I drove to the conference in Calgary in our electric car. So if anyone's interested to know how that experience was, it was flawless, but I'd love to have a conversation with folks about that. It was great. So we are down to community development, requests for direction on property vegetation standards bylaw. Director of Community Development is here.
Yeah, so just briefly, staff both in engineering and in community development have been receiving increasing numbers of complaints around the status of yards. And we don't have an actual policy or bylaw to help enforce. Most relevant is the dangerous and unsightly, which can be very subjective. And there's a variety of conflicts that have been arising in neighborhoods around, applying that dangerous and unsightly. And the number of complaints have been increasing that we've been receiving. So staff would like direction from council to start thinking about this and having discussion to bring forward a tool. Also recently, the town of Lunenburg has done such to do a naturalized yard. So there's broader community discussion around the topic also that we're fielding. So in brief, that's what we're asking for, some direction to have that type of discussion and bring back a draft bylaw for consideration or policy. But we'd have to do that work.
Thoughts or questions from council? Councillor Conklin?
So who would be enforcing this new bylaw?
That would be part of, and that's part of the broader bylaw enforcement discussion. So there is a wide range of things to consider. At present, it is through dangerous and unsightly, so that is our inspection services and other staff who are enforcing it right now. So.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of consistency across the province on these?
No, it's quite. We haven't done that broad amount of work yet either, so that's part of the work that would need to be done. But many municipalities do have, permissions within their bylaws to allow naturalized yards. I lived in the city of Guelph for many years, a long time ago, and they were one of the leaders across Canada with naturalized yards. But in a lot of other places, I've seen, court cases where somebody was trying to grow vegetables in their front yard and they were supposed to have grass. So bylaws were not permitting them and they had to rip up their vegetable yard. So a little bit of looking at, there isn't consistency, there isn't anything. It really varies community across Canada and across the province of Nova Scotia.
So this because I'm glad you kind of talked about that. So when you talk about naturalized yards, we're not just talking about people letting their grass grow 12 feet high. It's everything from what type, like growing vegetables instead of a lawn.
Yes.
Things like that. Okay. Yeah. That's helpful to know. Councillor McDonald.
Assuming that we give direction to proceed, can I ask that there be contact with some officials, with somebody who specializes in kind of Lyme disease and kind of those considerations?
That is fair consideration, yes, especially with if suddenly there is tall grass on either sides of the sidewalk as you're walking, there is an increased, especially in this hotbed of Lyme, dealing with it in our household right now. So well aware of that challenge. Great, so that would be, yes, thank you for that.
Other questions or comments? Someone prepared to make one? Yes, please.
I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater direct staff to bring a draft property vegetation standards bylaw to a regular meeting of council for consideration.
I have seconder, Deputy Mayor Frazier. Further discussion?
Question.
Questions being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. So just before I forget my train of thought, so you wouldn't just go to preparing the draft, you would be doing some, as Councillor McDonald said, some other engagement.
Absolutely. We have to do broader research, broader discussion internally as well, with the engineering department and others, around how would such a bylaw be implemented, responsibilities, etc. You know, we have to also think about what we refer to as the corner vision triangle. So when you come up to intersection, ensuring that you have visibility when you're on a bicycle or when you're walking on the sidewalk or when you're in a car. So from all those different modes of transportation, ensuring that people have line of sight, things like that.
Jessica, so who's going to lead this?
Community development will lead the work and bring together both departments.
Okay, but like who in community development would, like who has capacity? I'm curious. Let me get right to the nut, I guess.
At this point, Mackenzie Childs is the lead for that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Recognize we have someone in the gallery who's waiting for their topic to come further down the agenda. If you don't mind, with your indulgence, I'd like to just move the item 11.1, which is tree canopies behind the Bridgewater Memorial Arena, forward so that our guest doesn't have to wait for the next.
Be here till 8:45.
That's right. That's right. So if we can bring that item, I think that's our Director of Engineering. Plus, we just like making Matt come up and then go back down, and then have another topic and then make him come back up.
Good evening. So I'm here tonight to follow up a presentation, a delegation presentation to Council from May 13th. We're requesting the tree canopy on the town property located the rear of the property on Empire Street for the benefit of the private solar power system that's being installed or currently is installed. The work was estimated. The resident was able to provide an estimate of just under $10,000 for the work. At that time, Council did request the staff clarify with both the resident and the contractor how much of an improvement in operation would the canopy reduction provide, as well as, and talk with the resident and report back. So staff did communicate with both the resident and the contractor. The contractor, in his email, was a little hesitant to provide specific figures, but they did say that a completely unshaded solar system would perform approximately 20% more efficiently than a system that was typically shaded, which would result in an annual difference in electrical savings for the resident of hundreds of dollars per year, so anywhere from $100 to $900 a year. So after speaking with the resident as well, it was confirmed, because it wasn't clear to me, that they are requesting the town complete the work at no cost to the property owner. It should be pointed out that Town Council has previously approved a landowner to remove at their sole expense a select number of town trees to improve solar access for renewable energy production. I quoted the motion back in 2000, I guess 2005. However, this work was not completed because we end up selling that property prior to the work being completed. Staff do not recommend the removal of town trees or a portion of the canopy with town funds. At this point, there's insufficient operational funds to complete that level of work requested. There is sufficient funds to remove any dead or hazardous trees or limbs. So it would be staff's recommendation that the Town Council direct the engineering department to contact the owner, sitting in the audience, of Empire Street property, and inform the town will not complete the tree canopy reduction on the town property as requested, nor give permission to the resident to do so themselves. Thank you very much.
Questions from council? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Caldwell, thank you.
I move the town council for the town of Bridgewater direct the engineering department to contact the owner of the Empire Street property and inform them that the town will not complete the tree canopy reduction on town property as requested, nor give permission to the resident to do so themselves.
Seconded by Councillor Tanner. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? One. Councillor Thorman opposed? Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
You're much.
Our next item, we have correspondence for information. We have a letter from the province to the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities giving 12 months notice, which is standard for any potential upcoming changes. I don't know if there's anything in there you wanted to just touch on?
No, just that they're
standard.
doing a lot of reviews, so they obviously solicited all the departments within the province to see what initiatives they may be looking at over the next year that could have an impact. So as we find out more, we will let council.
Okay. I don't know if there's any questions on that, but we'll find out, I guess, in 12 months.
If there's any.
If there's anything. No. We have nothing in the correspondence. Oh, sorry, yes.
The 12 months notice, is that 12 months, they've given us 12 months notice that something could impact our budget, or once they have dollar amounts, they have to give us 12 months from then?
This is their notice.
Okay.
So it is very vague and just a heads up. So they've met their obligation of 12 months, and sometime in this fiscal year, if there's a financial impact, we'll know prior to next fiscal year.
But it could be very close to budget.
Could be.
Yeah, they could let us know in March. That's
okay.
Yeah, but
like the Library Funding Act as an
Yeah.
example, right? That they're changing that and how they're funded, and that would impact municipalities. And we would know in the spring.
Okay, down to reports and recommendations. Item 10.1, request for direction for the portable lights. So as council's aware, staff through some discussions with the Seahawks football organization came up with what we thought was a solution, at least maybe not the perfect solution, but something that would certainly get some light on the field during their evening practices in the fall. And so council did approve that for the budget. And then we learned, really just through a newspaper article, that the Seahawks had approached Municipality District of Lunenburg to use the field in Pine Grove for practices. And so we weren't aware of that until we read that article, and then so staff did reach out to see if that meant that they would be using Kinsman Field for practices this year or not. So my understanding is they came back saying they would use it this year, but their goal is to use the Pine Grove Field next year, which is why the topic of the lights is on the agenda. And so I'll just turn it over to Matt.
Pretty much everything for me.
Oh,
you made
sorry.
it easy, thank you. So it was brought to staff's attention through the newspaper article that they're planning and negotiate a management deal for the construction of 2 fields with temporary lights or non-permanent lighting, storage, buildings and parking. It was really at that time that staff started to question whether this was a valid exercise for the town to do. I will note that we have drafted the RFQ to proceed with procurement, to pull the trigger on it if direction is given tonight. Just worst case scenario, we need about 16 weeks probably to get those lights by the time we finish the procurement process, and then if we allow at least 8 to 12 weeks is what they kind of are telling us for the lights to arrive. But we probably feel that we can still get them here in time if council wishes to proceed. So really looking for a direction whether we purchase the lights or not.
Councilor McDonald.
What kind of other uses could they serve?
We had some discussion when the light bulb came on for this idea, and really we thought that could be used for any town event or sponsored event, if they, especially where I understand we had a discussion with the food farmers market and trying to work all year long, but throughout the, I guess, the gap season. So we thought they may be able to use them there, but again, we haven't really given it too much thought, and just saying, well, we know we would do some staff events. I think we do Afterglow. Might not be perfect for that, but they might have another use. We just haven't really found those yet.
I think that the other question was for the use for the night market, the farmers market. It's not the same number of lights as would be required for football. I think football was a significantly more lights required.
Make a motion?
Yes, sure.
I move that town council for the town of Bridgewater not proceed with the purchase of portable lights as originally intended in the 2024-25 budget.
Seconded by Councillor McDonald. Further discussion?
Question.
Question being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. 10.2 is improving access for transit, to transit for town staff. So everyone remembers our deputy CAO.
Mayor and Council, good evening. Requesting for staff to have access to student and youth rates for public transit. This was originating from the Non-Union Management Labor Relations Committee. It was seen as an accessibility issue for employees and a way to promote public transit for them. So we've costed it out. We've done a survey on how many people we think are going to use this service. We think between 3 and 5 employees will probably use this based on the survey that we did. And that represents about a $900 cost to the town per year if 5 people use that. So right now we've got 3 to 5 as our estimate. If we are a victim of our own success and more people sign up, it could cost more, and we'll know that as we go forward. But right now it looks like a pretty low-level cost for a good demonstration of why we should encourage our employees to use public transit.
Questions for the deputy CAO from council? Councillor Caldwell.
I guess, I get the ask, it makes sense to me, but and it's not a huge amount of money for the town considering our budget, but just on principle, I have a bit of a problem giving town staff a break when, regular citizens aren't getting that break. I'm not sure I get the logic of doing that, so I'm not sure I can support it.
Mayor, if I may add one fact I left out, HRM has a similar program where they offer one of the reduced rates to their employees as well. So they offer 25% off. It's about $20 a month. We're offering a 33% discount, so it's about $15 a month if they take the full membership. So I'd say it's consistent with some of the other municipalities that have public transit.
The other benefit to it is as the deputy CEO mentioned, it promotes the use of transit by employees, and if we are successful, it relieves the burden on some of the parking issues that we have as well. As we grow in staff size, our parking lot has grown in vehicles, and that's competing with other permanent parking spaces. And so we're also looking for ways that we can incentivize staff to use transit and reduce the demand on parking in the back so that we can have more spaces available. It will take time, I think, for that, but that is perhaps a potential outcome.
Spiritual benefit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Councilor McDonald?
I think attraction and retention is tough these days, and it's great when staff will let us know what kind of perks are meaningful to them, and will help make them happy being here. And thanks for bringing it forward. I appreciate it.
I kind of rattled the same question around in my head, Councillor Caldwell, as you did. One of the things I certainly noticed being in the building quite a bit is there's no parking spaces free. A lot of these parking spaces, if they were made available, would become permit parking spaces, which we charge more than the discount we would be offering staff on the transit. So I'm hoping that if we can displace some parking spaces that staff are using and then sell those as permitted spaces, we actually would profit from getting people to use the bus more. But it took me a little while to get there. And then the attraction and retention, but I started in the same spot for sure. Other questions or comments Someone prepared to make a motion, Councillor Conklin?
I'll make that. I move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater approve the recommendation of the non-union Management Labor Relations Committee and provide all town staff with access to Bridgewater Transit at the student and youth rates.
Seconded by Councillor McDonald. Further discussion? Question hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We are down to 10.3, request for direction for a facilities condition assessment. Welcome, Kirk.
If you don't have to sit for this. Excuse me. Good evening. As you know, I'm here presenting a memo for council direction on the facility assessment report. January 2021, council established the strategic priorities to guide the initiatives of council and staff for the next 4 years. These priorities were recently reviewed in January 2024. Subsequently, town council approved an associated work plan, which includes the development of a long-term facility plan. Council has raised concerns with regards to the need of long-term facility plans. Staff recommended completing individual facility condition assessments to aid in the development of a facility plan, as well as help inform the town's asset management plan. A facility condition assessment is a comprehensive evaluation of a building's current physical condition. The primary objective of the evaluation is to help determine what preventative maintenance, repairs, and improvements should be performed, estimated costs to do the work, and when the work should be completed. An assessment provides a clear understanding of a building's current condition, allowing an owner to make an informed capital planning decisions about the facility's future. A facility condition assessment would typically be completed by a multidisciplinary professional firm, completed through an RFP process with oversight by town engineering department. The assessment would involve a comprehensive visual inspection and analysis of various buildings elements such as roofing, envelope, exterior, life safety systems, structural components, elevators, accessibility, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Staff would lead the facility walkthroughs as well as provide their knowledge to each facility, in addition to as-built drawings, if available, maintenance records, energy consumption, and timelines for major component replacement or improvements. The scope of work may include non-destructive or destructive testing to evaluate the conditions concealed by construction or on a case-by-case basis. An example of non-destructive testing would be infrared testing to locate electrical, moisture, insulation problems, and an example of destructive testing would be sampling to confirm material composition or degradation. Upon the review of all relevant information and completion of a comprehensive inspection, a final report would be submitted that would summarize the evaluation of a building's current physical condition along with the prioritized recommendations, example, immediate short-term and long-term, and estimated costs. These recommendations, depending on scope and value, would then be inserted into either the 10-year capital plan, subject to council approval, or preventative maintenance programs through operation budgets. While a separate exercise of facility space needs analysis can be completed on a case-by-case basis, this analysis assesses the current function or performance of the building and projects future space needs for the functions that occupy the building. This analysis will help develop recommendations and budget estimates to optimize the use of the building, their expansion, renovation, or replacements. The list of facilities currently owned by the town and under the care and control of staff have been supplied in the report. Upon review of the town-owned facilities, it would be the staff's recommendation to prioritize the town hall as the first facility to have a facility condition assessment completed, since it is essential to all services provided by the town. In addition, there is a growing issue with space needs within the town hall. Presently, there are no available office spaces that have not already been earmarked for staff, and there are some departments that are over capacity, forcing staff to share office and meeting space. The growing staff complement is also stressing IT and the HVAC systems. and parking is becoming limited. There are currently no funds allocated to facility assessments in the 24-25 budget, except those funds associated with the wastewater treatment plant condition assessment. The cost for a facility condition assessment varies significantly depending on the level of assessment required and the type of facility being assessed. Staff estimate the cost to complete an assessment, which includes a space need analysis but does not include destructive testing, to be $50,000 Canadian HST, net HST. Once the town is made aware of any health and safety issues through the assessments, a plan to address them must be put in place immediately, regardless of current priorities or funding. The completion of a facility plan has been a strategic priority for the last 2 years. Currently, the 2024-25 capital budget includes the completion of assessment of the wastewater treatment plant. Engineering staff have reviewed the current work plan, and staff would suggest an assessment of the town hall be completed in the fiscal year 25-26. The 10-year capital plan will be updated to reflect the above prioritization and estimated costs, which will be reviewed annually by staff and council. A critical part of a successful asset management plan are detailed facility condition assessments on town-owned facilities and assets. Data from any assessment should be reviewed and updated periodically to ensure the asset management plan is up to date. Built environment accessibility standards regulations will be a key area of focus for the assessment. It would be council's decision to direct the engineering department to complete a facility assessment and space needs analysis for the town hall, if so desired.
Questions for our facility manager, Councilor Caldwell?
So there's a list in the report of 16 town-owned facilities.
Yes.
Are those roughly in order of priority for assessment? Or are they just random?
They are roughly in order, yes. I wouldn't say it's a complete order of magnitude, but yes, they are very...
Roughly, okay. And so the case is made for town hall, I understand that, but I don't understand why the other facilities near the top of the list, what would be the case for or against those? I'm not sure what I'm comparing town hall against.
I think the main reason for the town hall reasoning was it's just it has the bulk of the town staff on a day-to-day basis. It is one of the oldest buildings. Part of this facility is part of the oldest building that the town has. And it's, as the report said, the space needs are the most critical because there is not, we don't have spare space.
Mm-hmm. Councilor Tanner. So who would complete the space needs analysis?
I would assume like an engineering firm that was awarded if we awarded to an engineering firm for the other portion.
So they would do the condition assessment as well as the space analysis?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would assume we just go out as one package.
Okay. Councilor McDonald?
The police station isn't on there, I assume because we don't own it, but we are responsible for some maintenance. Would it make sense for that also to be completed? I mean, a roof is going to affect the budget. Would it make sense for that to be included so that we know what could be coming our way from that building as well?
I think it's because our lease with the police station is less than 10 years, and
I don't believe it's structural, is it, in terms of our responsibility?
I've never actually read the lease.
I don't think so.
I know we do all maintenance.
Yeah.
But
Structural would be like replacing a roof or...
Sure.
So there would be no capital?
Yeah, and nothing substantial like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And it is, yes, it does expire, I think, 2032, I think it is.
I think so.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to be clear, it's $50,000 estimated to do the condition assessment and the space needs analysis on just town hall or on all of these 16?
That
Just
number
town
is a very random number, unfortunately, because there's no accurate cost measurements. we went to the, I don't know if you're familiar with the RS means costing. It's a very accurate cost analysis system. And their pricing for an assessment was extremely low, so it was inaccurate. So the $50,000 was taken from past engineering reports that have been completed for the town.
Okay, and it's just town hall.
That would be just town hall, yeah. It's been almost 20 years since we've had an assessment done on any town structure by an outside firm.
Councilor McDonald.
This isn't in the budget. Is there somewhere that we could, where would we look to for these funds?
So you would either look to pull from reserve for this year. You can always spend it, and if we have surplus, then that would cover that off. We pull from reserve at the end of the fiscal year. Or you can opt to include it in the budget for 25-26 as opposed to doing that this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the other piece is that to get the list done, you're looking at building that into the 10-year capital plan, and that would be 1 or 2 a year, depending on budget, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it might take us a while to get that comprehensive look.
And when we talk about asset management systems and so on, do these buildings fall into that tool as well? So how does that play out? Like we take the data that we get from the study and put that into the asset management tool?
So if there's a condition assessment done that looks at, say, the mechanical or the building itself, that data in terms of, years remaining or required maintenance, that type of stuff will get fed into our asset management program. Okay. So that when we have that, and that'll take a while, but that information will be there so that you'll be able to make decisions knowing what's coming up in, year 2, 3, and 4 type thing.
Okay. Councilor Thurman.
My idea on this, I'd like to see that brought into this year's budget. We're talking 25-26, which means we won't be doing anything to 26-27. We've got some real serious issues within this building, staffing and whatnot, and I think should be a higher priority. And really, I would support a motion to do that study this year, so it can be put in the budget next year to get this work done to relieve some of the problems we're having here at 60 Pleasant Street.
Okay.
So I'm just checking with staff to see if there's capacity to undertake the condition assessment this year, in terms of preparing the RFP and overseeing the consultants. Then they would work with us on the space needs analysis too. So it will take, we wouldn't just let them loose in the building. We'd have to kind of be with them when they're doing that type of thing. So I'm looking to Matt, and that's your concern about.
With the number of capital projects.
Come on down.
You give them the money, they don't want to spend it.
You do it so nicely, though.
Just pull that microphone towards you. There you go.
Chastise too much. So while I do think it's a very good idea to complete the facility assessments as quickly as possible, as it does feed into the asset management program as well, and it gets into the 10-year capital plan. There are a number of competing demands on Kirk's time with respect to making sure the Des Brisets Museum gets finished up, as well as the BMA and the emergencies that come along from the day-to-day and the operation maintenance. He would likely look to myself or anybody else in the engineering team. Our focus right now is getting the backlog of carry-forward projects that are from last year. Unfortunately, we had some staff resource issues last year. Now we're back on top of that finally, which is great. But I would not want to lie to you and tell you I was going to do something I couldn't do, or the staff that I work with. So I don't think while it's something we could probably try to start drafting that RFP in late 2020 or early 2025, I don't see us issuing it this year.
Okay. Shame.
But we are working on one facility, which is the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay.
Which is a good start.
Other questions or comments? Is someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Caldwell, thank you.
Move the town council for the town of Bridgewater direct the engineering department to budget in the 2025-26 budget year to complete a facility assessment and space needs analysis for Town Hall located at 60 Pleasant Street, Bridgewater, and incorporate other conditional assessments in the 10-year capital plan.
Seconded by Councillor McDonald. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thanks,
we have in your council package the May building inspection reports. Building permits are up this year. We also have the Lunenburg County Senior Safety report for May 2024. Of course, a need that doesn't diminish as the months go on. And just a reminder to the public watching that all the documents that we have in front of us are accessible on the town's website, bridgewater.ca, and then you go council, agendas, and then the agenda for today. All the documents are there, including the building inspection report and the senior safety report. And the discussion session notes from the June 3rd meeting? June 3rd? Yeah, June 3rd meeting. Sorry I missed that one because the discussion looks great. So the topics were like pickleball courts, obviously a lot of interest in that. Economic engagement, stakeholder engagement for economic development, and the Road Trails Act. So as the public is probably hopefully aware, the province ended their pilot for off-highway vehicles on roads. So we have lots of questions that come out of that. And then parking on Glen Allen Drive, I know Councillor Conklin, you raised that, and then parking in general came up, and I understand that'll be on a future discussion and council agenda as well for more discussion. So again, for the public, all that is available for you to read. And then we're down to Public Service Commission temporary borrowing resolution.
So this is whenever the Public Service Commission wishes to borrow, which they are required to do to fund capital, and there are capital items that have been approved by the Nova Scotia Utility Review Board under their budget approval process. The town is required to guarantee the borrowing. So you have a recommendation from the Public Service Commission that notes that at their last meeting, they approved the borrowing resolution and recommended it forward to council for guarantee. The report that you have included in your agenda notes that the resolution is for borrowing resolution is for $3,976,972. So 3.9 million, and it also notes the projects for which the borrowing resolution is required. So you can see that some of the larger projects for the Empire Street water main replacement that's going to happen this year for 2.9 million. High Street was a big project as well. The water treatment plant, the lime silo design, and then we had some upgrades at the plant as well. So that all totaled the $3.97 million that the borrowing resolution would cover.
Any questions on that? Is someone prepared to, Deputy Mayor Frazier?
Yes, Your Worship, I'll make a motion. I move that whereas the Public Service Commission of Bridgewater is a body corporate pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 59, Section 2 of the Statutes of Nova Scotia 2011, and whereas the Commission has resolved to borrow by the issue and sale of debentures the sum of $3,976,972 for the purpose of water systems. And whereas pursuant to Section 60-4 of the Municipal Government Act, the Municipal Service Commission has requested the Town of Bridgewater to guarantee the principal and interest of the said borrowing. And whereas Section 88 of the Municipal Government Act provides that no guarantee of a borrowing by a municipality hall have the effect unless the Minister of Municipal Affairs has approved of the proposed borrowing or debenture and of the proposed guarantee. Be it therefore resolved that subject to the approval of the Minister of Municipal Affairs, the Town of Bridgewater unconditionally guarantee repayment of the principal and interest of the borrowing of $3,976,972 for the purpose set out and above. and that upon the issue of the temporary borrowing resolution, the mayor and clerk of the town do sign the guarantee attached to the temporary borrowing resolution of Public Service Commission of Bridgewater, and affix hereto the corporate seal of the town, and are authorized to do all the things and execute all documents necessary to give effect to this resolution. Okay.
Seconded by Councilor Tanner. Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We're down at 10.8, which is RFD for Pinecrest subdivision storm sewer upgrades for Central Street and Dublin Avenue.
Hello.
Hello.
So I'm here today. I'm Jonathan Barkas. I'm the new engineering services manager.
Perfect.
This is my first time speaking in front of you guys. I'm here to ask a request for council's direction on the Pinecrest subdivision storm sewer upgrades. And just let me
You start off with the easy one, something coming in massively over budget.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Good job, Matt.
So within the approved 24-25 budget includes 2 storm sewer extensions in the Pinecrest subdivision. First, which was recently tendered, being Central Street and is a carry forward from last year. Second being Dublin Avenue, which hasn't been tendered yet. The allocated budget for each of these extensions is $130,000 net HST, and the engineering department is recommending council 1 not award this tender for Central Street to Dexter at a cost of approximately $538,000 due to the proposed bid being significantly over budget, and 2 direct staff to complete the storm sewer extension projects utilizing our Public Works Department, with any unfunded expenses being funded from the wastewater reserve. A little background, these storm sewer extensions are a priority under our multi-year infrastructure improvement project. This is a phased program which provides dedicated storm sewer in underserviced areas and is in line with the 2018 Sanitary Stormwater Master Plan and the 2021 Inflow and Infiltration Study. On May 23rd, 2024, the town issued a tender for Central Street, including new storm sewer, the storm sewer laterals, curb and gutter, street reconstruction, and landscaping for all impacted areas. The tender closed on June 6, 2024 with a single bid, and as mentioned, it was more than 414% over the approved budget. Again, the allocated budget for each of these was $130,000, and these are incorporated in a funding application with approval expected soon. That would provide roughly 73% funding, so that would be $95,000 covered by funding, and the town covering the remaining $35,000 for each of these phases plus any overages. It's not feasible for the town to spend roughly the additional $410,000 for a single phase of the project when we can complete both in-house at a fraction of that cost. Prior to tendering, staff estimated the value of completing the work in-house would actually be $320,000 net HST based on discussions with contractors and revised unit prices obtained this spring. There's the ability for the town to complete the work in-house based on the draft funding agreement, but a business case has to be made and approved by the funders. Currently, staff understand that traditionally business case cannot be made if there is a contractor able to perform the work. So we're seeking clarification currently from the funders on how to proceed in that regard. But we're hoping to complete the work in-house, fully cost shared with the funders, or at least have the materials and subcontracted services cost shared. Worst case scenario would be that the town fully funds both projects, which would cost the town an additional $251,000 net HST for both extensions, paid again from the wastewater reserve, and the original town funding sources of that $69,000 would also continue to be used for these projects. Project traditionally would have been managed and funded internally by the Public Works Department for cost control. However, now constrained by the new funding agreement, the department is still capable of doing the work using its current resources, but Timely completion this fiscal year hinges on ordering materials and beginning work before the end of June. In conclusion, Town Council has the option to either award the work to the lowest compliant bidder, proceed with our Public Works Department handling the projects in-house. Our preference is to leverage our internal resources to manage the cost while ensuring timely completion.
Questions, Councillor McDonald?
And just want to back up to something you said about how we couldn't, and I probably didn't hear this correctly, we wouldn't do the work if there was a contractor that is capable of doing the work?
So that's
picked up in that process.
With the yet approved funding, it was a part of that agreement.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
that if there's a compliant bidder, that they would have to be awarded the project, unless we can prove that possibly it's so significantly over budget that it's just not feasible for them to do it.
It's not our
right.
Terminology, it's the funder.
That's right.
Right,
yes.
okay.
The
I understand
funder's
it now,
name.
okay. That's the part I was missing.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, good question though. Councillor Tanner?
So, just so I understand, so we budgeted 260 for the total project.
Yes.
Then in the spring, we went back and redid some calcs and so on. Things go up in cost and so on, so we're at 320. How do we get to the?
Sorry, yeah.
Go ahead.
I
Sorry.
believe the 130 has been in the budget for a number of years possibly, and it's just always kind of been that.
And that's fair. Where do we get to the needing to fund an additional 251? What am I missing there?
Right, so the budget being 538,000 for just the one phase. So the 260 is for both phases, both Dublin Avenue and Central Street, where only one of them have been tendered at this point, Central Street. So 130 each, totaling again, yes, as you mentioned, 260.
Okay.
But for just the one phase, Central Street, again, budgeted 130. The tender, the bid came in at 538,000.
Okay.
So to make up that difference, that would be the additional costs.
Okay. And we talk about this all the time, but what's the theory behind why this company is increasing, charging us 400% more than the estimated cost of doing the work? And has anyone spoken to the province about this? This is a problem.
They're aware of, we spoke to the province last year when we started seeing tenders come in, with only one bid. And we're not alone. They're having the same experiences, like even if you just look at the interchange project, right?
Yeah.
It's basically market. There's one bid, which means there's one company doing that type of work, which means they control the price.
So are there any examples in maybe Canada or even the US, I guess, of cases where municipalities have pooled resources and said, if we pool our resources, we can get all this work done, and then we can go on and we can help you with yours? And
that was a discussion we had this morning about.
There may be that, that would have to be explored to see if there's an opportunity to regionally look at, whether it's regionally or larger than that, some type of corporation where, like the province took that approach several years ago with paving, right? And said that, we're going to try to reduce costs by doing it ourselves. Yeah. They reversed that decision, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't work for, say, municipal public works to be larger and do municipalities in the region.
Right.
It's something that is probably worth exploring, especially if we're going to continue to encounter one bid and it's like 400% over our estimates. It's not feasible to do projects.
And as the CEO said, we're not alone. So if you think about the communities in just Lunenburg County, every time there's an infrastructure bid that's going out, it's generally one bidder coming back. It's generally massively over budget. And so when you start looking at the options we have with this municipal joint service board or another type of municipal corporation in partnership and collaboration with other units, it's worth exploring. There has to be a better way to do this. We don't have the volume of the city or the population of a larger province where you've got, half a dozen or more firms doing the same work and competing. When you have one bidder, I'm not just picking on this company. We have one bidder no matter what the project is, and they're already full up on work.
Yeah.
And they just bid, whatever. They get it, they get it. So I feel like, municipalities, across, especially rural Nova Scotia, we're kind of at the mercy of others. But if we're all at the mercy of others, certainly we can do something together to solve this. Councillor Thorburn.
I'm concerned, we talked about staff earlier, this is a big project. Do we have sufficient resources to do this project?
Yeah.
And if so, are we deferring something else that they would be doing?
So this is normally work that is done in-house. We put it through that funding application because we could get 2/3 of the cost recovered, assuming it would come in at the same budget. So staff are able to do this because it's normally part of our annual program. It's the Pinecrest Storm Sanitary.
I think that's been going on since 2012.
Yes.
We've been putting money each year. And
That's
just
right.
spread out,
So it's a
right?
little bit at a time.
Yeah.
So that's what this is.
I was just concerned that staff has the resources to do it. You say they do, so I'm happy. Don't worry, be happy.
Councillor Colwell.
When or how can we find out from the funding partners about whether or not they're funding part of this, or how much?
The request has gone in now, so those conversations have started to see if it would cover labor and materials. It may just, we have to make the case that, 410% over budget should theoretically be enough to demonstrate that in-house is more cost-effective to get this done, but we don't make that decision. If that doesn't work, then it'll be, will you cover materials, and at least we'll get a portion of that back. And if not, it's still cheaper for the town just to do it in-house than to go through the funding program. So hopefully soon, but request is in, it's been taken to who they need to have that conversation with, and we're just waiting for a response.
Other questions? Someone prepared to make a motion, Councillor Thorburn?
I will, Your Worship. I would move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater endorse the recommendation of the Engineering Department to, 1, not award tender 24-01E Central Street Storm Sewer Upgrades to Dexter Construction Company Limited at a cost of approximately $538,346.24 net HST, $593,654.15 full HST, due to the proposed bid being significantly over budget. And 2, direct staff to complete the storm sewer extension projects on Central Street and Dublin Avenue utilizing resources from Public Works Department, with any unfunded expenses to be funded from the wastewater reserve.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Conklin. Further discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Down to 11.2, Vino's Bridge pedestrian crossing. Councillor Colwell, you brought this forward. I know you've received some questions. I think we've all received some questions from the public.
Yes, I did ask for this to be put on the agenda. I'm just wondering if it's something that we need to revisit, because I have had complaints. I think the complaints are valid. It costs us quite a bit of money to have those temporary lights put up. I think when we approved the motion to put them there, and I thought it was more of a temporary solution than it sounds to me like it's just indefinite. Years?
2026.
2026.
So it's when the province does their work on the Vino Bridge.
Yeah, so that's a long time. I'm just wondering if we need to come up with a better solution since they're going to be there for so long. I don't know what the solution could be. Can we close it to pedestrians? Can we actually put in a more permanent bridge for pedestrians? Just go ahead and put it in ourselves and not wait for the province. That's an awful long time to have temporary lights on a main thoroughfare in town.
It's a very long time. It's unfortunate that the timing, obviously, just for the public watching, this bridge was impacted by the storm. The pedestrian bridge was impacted by the July 22nd storm last year. The Vino Bridge, which is a short little bridge on King Street, was slated to be replaced in 2026 by the province already. So it was already reaching kind of the end. We've talked to the province about picking up the pace because of the issue with the temporary lights. In my head, I thought when we discussed this last year, it was like a 2025 that it was still going to be 2 years, but not 2 years from now. It was 2 years from then. The issue we discussed as a council with closing it to pedestrians meant that students walking it added 1.8 kilometers to the walk, because there's no way to get without a pedestrian bridge. You actually have to walk up Victoria Road to York Street, across York Street to Star, and then all the way back down Star. So then, there's no other way to get past without blocking some part of the road bridge to get people across. We did look at a temporary pedestrian bridge, and I think you're probably going to speak to
Again,
that.
Unfortunately, I didn't bring my original memo. I should have. But if I recollect that when I presented that fire hall, I do remember that, the idea of renting a pedestrian bridge versus renting the lights were both the same. Because we'd have to rent both, renting the temporary traffic lights versus renting the bridge. Staff continue to be concerned with respect to setting up that pedestrian bridge and slope to stability of the banks across on either side of the bridge. Also now, we have the temporary services in place where the pedestrian bridge would have to go, so we'd have to relocate the temporary services that we have for water and sewer if to make room. Also, the idea we'd have to go through property acquisition. As my understanding, the province hasn't completed their acquisition of the land where the temporary bridge would have to go, but that is another hurdle that we have to go through, and I know Tammy has asked me to look into that since then. So I know that it's not an ideal situation. Staff do monitor these lights every day. We go through them ourselves. I went through them twice today just to make sure they do work. And it does sometimes, be waiting a little bit, but we can certainly revisit the idea of other options. They're not a lot. We could try to recess the existing bridge that's there to have it repurposed, but I fear where it hasn't been assessed in a while and left in the current condition, we're probably going to tell us structurally you can't refurbish it. Staff did talk about, which wasn't in the memo, a permanent detour. I need to look at, as a traffic authority, the legality of that, meaning in order to remove the lights, and you would only allow traffic one way. So you either allow it north or you allow it south. That does mean that traffic would be, in one way would be detoured, you still have the inconvenience associated with it. So we did talk about a little bit more, but we don't really necessarily have any other options that we could review within what's in place. Again, I wasn't, at the time of writing the memo back in 2023, I didn't understand the bridge was going to be, or the temporary lights would be in this long.
One of the questions I have, and maybe it's not possible, I'll admit I'm not an engineer or a traffic authority, but right now the lights have to work in 3 different directions, right? So if people aren't familiar, you've got the one coming out of the driveway, and then so you have to stop traffic 2 of 3 directions at all times. But the pedestrians are not in constant use of that sidewalk, right? So it's used, but it's not like downtown King Street or Glen Allen where it's just there's constantly people on site. Is there a way to do it so that, like, the light coming out of the driveway is always flashing yellow, so they're responsible for making sure traffic's clear? The 2 directions are generally always green, but if there's a pedestrian that wants to continue across the bridge, is there a way to make where they can push a button like you would downtown, all the lights go red? Because really, it's a lot of setup for what is just the span of the bridge, because the sidewalk's fine on either side. So the worst case is that, maybe it's a couple dozen times a day instead of every cycle that someone pushes the button, less even when school is not in. But is that something that can work safely?
We'd have to speak with it's set up as a temporary, because the only regulation we have to go by right now, our standard, is the temporary workplace sign or regulations. And I'm not aware of that they incorporate that level of accessibility within temporary lights. So that'll be the first thing. Secondly, if I understand correctly, the idea would be that you'd have two-way traffic on the bridge. Unfortunately, you can't because the lights themselves are in the way and it restricts it to one lane because you have to go around the lights. So you have to actually go into oncoming traffic lane in either direction. So we'd have to remove the lights out of the way, and we have no place to put the lights so that they're completely, fully out of the right of way. So when you come up when you're going north, you have to go into the other lane and then come back, and it's even worse when you're going south. You have to come to lights and you're going into oncoming lane traffic and coming back. And so so signalization, it would be, I'm not familiar with, and I have to do a little bit of research, but what I see the biggest problem is we couldn't incorporate two-way traffic because of the lights themselves, which comes back to not having lights. If we don't have lights, you don't have pedestrian access. So it was a kind of a circular argument this morning, a little bit in my head.
Councilor McDonald.
I've gotten a lot of complaints, very valid complaints about the lights as well. And do we have any data on how much pedestrian use there is? Because I mean, like, school's out, and if it's primarily students, and you know that road is blocked off to pedestrians, we've now increased the distance that students have to walk. Could we go back to the province and say these students are now inside your busing, like they now meet your busing requirements for distance, and they now need to bus those students to Parkview because there's no pedestrian access to go that way? We've increased distance.
I'm not. That's a good point. I mean, I haven't had those conversations. I mean, up until with the lights in place, the feedback or complaints we received wasn't necessarily from students. It was from a handful of people, I will say, because of the amount of time that the lights weren't there with respect to inaccessibility or accessibility issues of crossing that bridge at night. So it wasn't students, it was actually the general public that was concerned. But I know, speaking with the chief of police, it was he that mentioned that it was a designated walking route for school, so it was something to consider.
That bridge is not wide enough to just make the travel lanes for cars a little bit narrower and still leave room.
It's the lights that are on either end of it. So,
but like to remove the lights completely and just, well, I guess you can't walk across it because of the.
Not to
it's just not wide
in
enough.
order to have a protected barrier, those F barriers need to be there, and they need to be interlocking, so that in case something happens, hopefully nothing happens, but that's the setup in which we need to have in place.
We really need the province to prioritize this bridge. I mean, we saw it after the floods and fires last year that they were able to replace a bridge in Shelburne in 24 hours. So I know they can do it, and that was a bridge on a highway. So I don't know, Councilor Caldwell, if you.
Well, I was just going to suggest we do have somewhere, we have pedestrian counters. And I wonder if it would be a good idea to use some pedestrian counters at different times of day and see how many people are walking there, and I don't know. It might give us more data to make an informed decision.
Yeah, I know I've had a local business say that it is having an impact on their business. People who are getting frustrated, not wanting to go down the road, and so they go to a different store. And I know it's an easy argument to say, well, you know, it's an extra 2 minutes that you're sitting in traffic, but it's, you know, if someone has made the decision not to go to a business, then it's something that council's obligated to. We have to weigh that. Certainly, Councilor Thorburn.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of making that a one-way street and setting up a permanent detour. I mean, I've lived with that up on High Street for a few months. And as a matter of fact, the sidewalk was closed there, and that is used probably a whole lot more than the one down on King Street by this bridge that we're talking about. So if we can give them something permanent and make that one way, and I think it would solve the problems that we're having, personally.
I do like the idea of pedestrian counters, because if you knew it was 10 people a day, is it 100 people a day, is it 4 people a day? I mean, you're still inconveniencing people, but you can make decisions based on if it's 4 people a day on average that you're inconveniencing. What can we do to, you know, are those people that could use the bus more? It's cheaper to provide a bus pass to 4 people or 10 people than it is to rent traffic lights for 3 years.
anyway, just, I think all our ideas have to be on the table. I think at the and at the same time, we have to be talking to our MLA and talking to the
Yeah.
Minister of Public Works to note that, this is a major street in a very busy town, right? Keep talking about 30,000 cars a day coming in Bridgewater from outside Bridgewater. Some of those cars are coming in from that direction. So you can't just leave this bridge the way it is. Deputy Mayor?
I think if we're looking at options, and suggestion was a one-way, I think if we can get the data for car traffic as well, not only pedestrian, because if we say we make the recommendation as a one-way and then we realize, okay, we're bottlenecking another street because we didn't realize there is this much traffic that goes, on North King Street. So I think if we can have everything, the data for the car traffic as well as the pedestrian, then it helps us make, as Councillor said, to be an informed decision.
So we know that from the conference that you and I went to 2 years ago, that there's, I thought we had data available for traffic counts within our own system. That's what we were told, right? Within our own.
We do. The staff resource that would know how to access that position's vacant right now, but it is part of,
You want to do
I
that?
think it's ARPU or Esri that Aaron brought to light, the ability to obtain that data with that program. So
that
it would take it down to an intersection at least, or
You can get that, and then we'd have that data within minutes.
I was just going to say, I mean, the issue with, for me at least, with doing a pedestrian count and a traffic count is that we don't have, I assume we don't have prior data to look at to know whether this is high traffic, low traffic, how inconvenienced people are, and so, like, nothing to compare it to, so it's just,
it's historical data, right? Because
Right.
that went back,
Yeah.
they could go back years, could they not?
Yeah.
That thing that we saw?
Supposedly.
Yeah.
yeah, it depends on where you'd have to, and that was an expensive piece of data, but it depends on where the point is too. Is it the intersection or that type of thing? Because they were using bank card data, just picking up purchases and stuff like that, where you use your bank card. And they said they could get people going through intersections and those types of things. But I'm curious about whether or not we have traffic counts for King Street.
I have to go back. I know that coincidentally enough, I got down a rabbit hole of looking at our previous data there a week ago. And so I don't believe we have up-to-date data. The last time we would have received anything either in-house or through a consultant, that was probably 2020 for the traffic operations study, and that would have monitored traffic coming in at Victoria and King. Now I believe we still have the ability to try to set up traffic counts. I know that the province offers an annual program, but that's long gone for this year. It's something that staff will try to re-engage that service again going forward, to go through a cycle of the key intersections or key roads. But I'd have to speak with staff about what's the ability of trying to, through older position, we still may have the ability to monitor traffic on that road to give you traffic counts. But again, you make a good point of how we plan to use that data to make an informed decision, because we may need to look at getting a traffic engineer if need be, depending on what other solutions we want to employ. But I mean, we could certainly, they would, ourselves or they would require that type of data if they're looking at options, something other than what's in place right now.
I will reach out to our MLA tomorrow, Councillor Caldwell, and let her know that we raised this at council and that we are in dire need of the province picking up the pace. 2026 is, even if they do the design now, it's 2025 for the bridge to replace, but even that is better than 2 years.
Does staff understand that the brutal?
No, I mean, is there any fear that 2026 will move into 2027, 2028
Yes.
with budgets? Yeah. Estimates coming in 400% over estimates? That would be my fear.
Yeah.
There is a design, my understanding, last speaking with the province, they did state that they would be looking at completing the work as previously stated, and that the design is already complete and ready to go. I think there is land acquisition that still needs to take place, which is I think we've all experienced or aware of that takes stuff at a time.
That's Thorburn.
The province is responsible for the bridge. Is the town still responsible for the
Sidewalks.
sidewalk?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just
So
want
when
to
they
make
build
that
a new
clear.
bridge with
Yeah.
sidewalks, because they'll build them into the new bridge, we're going to
Right.
be paying for the sidewalks.
Yeah. Okay.
And along with the services that would be hung from
Under
underneath
the
it.
bridge, yeah.
Yep.
So I'm assuming staff would like, council would like staff to come back with a report on options with respects to the pedestrian crossing at the Venus Bridge, looking at pedestrian counts if possible.
Yep.
And whatever vehicle counts we may have.
Yep, and I would suggest that those options be as creative as you feel you need to be. Yeah, Councilor Conklin. It's not 9 o'clock yet.
No, no, pregame in like 42 minutes. So.
Keep the question short.
Okay. Yeah, I honestly don't think that we need to do a traffic study or a pedestrian count. I mean, sure, we got a pedestrian count, let's say it's 4, but maybe it's because of the situation now. Any historical data that we have, just looking at the WSP that did our traffic operations analyses in 2021. So they did do the Victoria Road King Street intersection, but nothing south of that point there. But I mean, we all know that the traffic flow there is vital to how, you know, the town has to operate day in, day out. Sure, you know, I mean, if we've only had one business complain about the issue, then I think we're probably pretty lucky. I say let's, you know, we got to get on the province's tail to get something done here. Because, yeah, like you said, it'll be 2027, 2028. It's squeaky wheel, and if we just kind of wait around for, you know, counts to be done and studies and stuff, there might be an election coming up in the province soon, who knows?
Yeah, I don't think they have, one is reliant on the other. So I think going to the province right now and saying you need to pick up the pace, recognizing that a design is still year 1 with construction year 2. So no matter, even if they said tomorrow we're on it, it's still, we're still 12 months minimum before they begin construction. So there's no 2024 construction for this bridge. So that will still go to the province tomorrow, and again, not the first time, to say you have to move this forward. We're just trying to build the case for council if the province says 2026 is the best we can do, or worst case, 2027 or 2028, what are our other options and what data are we using to base that on?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many staff listen to council. Because I just got a message from our economic development officer who just wanted to remind us that with the opening of the exit 12A interchange and traffic flowing down, there's a potential that there'd be increased traffic coming from that direction.
Absolutely.
Which is a great point.
Very good.
Yeah.
Smart. Or that I will add to that staff have talked about traffic. Our traffic itself is certainly changed and is a little bit different in the last couple of years, notably this summer where we've seen a lot of impacts due to the stoppages on Highway 103. So we notice there's a lot of traffic and people trying to get around through the town, but also what we're seeing for Have Street. So it does have some, we're not sure of the impacts to the exit 12A, whether it's going to help or hinder or really what the impacts are going to be. You know, I know what I'll personally do. I'll come off of exit 12A to get to my home, so it'll change my route. But how it changes it also, it does. Staff have already said, well, we may need to do another or updated traffic operation study, maybe at least some in key areas, and one of them being Have Street because of the lights that has changed, and exit 12A or anything around exit 12A would have to be considered as well.
So hopefully staff will come back with some information. I'll just, the last thing I just want to add is we spend a lot of time and effort on active transportation in the town of Bridgewater. And so I'd hate to go through all the expense we did on High Street and all the things we've done to make sure people can walk, bike, and
use different methods to get through town, not in a car, and then cut them off and add, like I said, I think I drove around and for someone to walk around, it's 1.8 kilometers just to get, you can't cross that bridge, you got to do a 1.8 kilometer detour. In a car, it's nothing. It's a little bit more, so that I'm hoping there's a balanced solution. I don't know what it is, though. It's a tough one. Okay, so staff will come back with some information. Okay, that is the end of our regular agenda. We have an in-camera meeting to discuss a number of items under section 22.2E and 22.2F in the Municipal Government Act. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please? Councillor Tanner, seconded by Councillor Thorburn. We are adjourned. Thank you.